Hey everybody, it's Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Did you fight when you were a kid? I don't know if that's still a thing. I think you're not supposed to fight now. It's probably good. Fighting, is mean. Violence is bad. But we fought when we were kids. It was mostly all in good fun. I don't think it ever really crossed a lot of lines. I was usually the one getting provoked or kind of picked at a little bit, but I just didn't mind mixing it up and scrapping some. I don't know, when you'd fight somebody back then, it was like, okay, punch each other and shove a little bit and bloody the lip. But then after that, everybody just kind of wipes the blood off their own lip and high fives and moves on. And if anything, things are usually better after you fight somebody a little bit, or at least it was back then. I discourage fighting. It is certainly not in style right now. And maybe that is a mark of us being more civilized now. But in some of those scenarios, I can remember sometimes it was me, sometimes it was somebody else, but you kind of have everybody puff up, a couple groups of friends like, oh, we should fight. And I'm talking like elementary school here. And then, I don't know, like maybe we're not gonna, nobody really knows what to do next. So you just kind of take the verbal abuse and walk away. But there's always one kid, and it might have been me once or twice, that would just throw out one more little chirp over their shoulder as they're walking away. And that was the spark that was needed. You could have just walked away. You could have walked away. But you had to say that thing. You had to open your mouth, and now you got to have a fight. Well, in a not juvenile, immature way, likewise, Jesus, I think, maybe could walk away from the situation he finds himself in here by simply not talking. If he just keeps his mouth shut and holds to the trajectory that he is on in the early lines of questioning he's facing in Matthew 26, I'm not sure the religious leaders have enough to convict him on. I mean, think about their position. If they had him, like dead to rights, we got you, everything we need, this would be happening in the light. If they had everything they need, they wouldn't bring in a parade of goofball witnesses who just throw a bunch of crap at the wall and see if something eventually sticks. They'd already have the thing that's stuck and smells, and they'd trot it out on a stick and be like, oh, look at that. That's him. We got witnesses and everything. He did that, but they're not doing any of those things. They still have something they lack. Jesus is a social genius. He knows the weaknesses of their position. He sees why they're having to behave the way they're behaving. And in addition to fulfilling stuff from Isaiah 53 by keeping his mouth shut, I think being quiet here would also accomplish him maybe even going free. But he didn't come here to get exonerated or let off the hook or walk free. He came here to die, to be wrongfully convicted, but not just wrongfully convicted of like whatever, like a brigand. That's why we're putting away the swords here. He's not going to be convicted of being some violent rebel who went around killing people and finally got caught. No, he's going to be convicted, at least in this trial right here, with the supposed state-appointed mediator between God and man, the high priest Caiaphas. He is going to be convicted of exactly what the issue is. And what is the issue that divides them? Jesus is the Christ and the Messiah. Everything about his life points to it. Everything affirms it, even though he doesn't have to go Tony Stark and yell it from the mountaintops or in a press conference. And that makes him the one true mediator between God and man, the God-appointed mediator, as opposed to the state stool pigeon-appointed mediator of a world kingdom dressed up in religious robes. The showdown was inevitable between these two claimants to the role of mediator, one frantically demanding it, the other with cool and quiet, with no team, no support, everybody bailed on him, quietly just letting who he is and truth speak for itself. If Jesus had held the line and just never said anything, maybe he walks. Decent chance this sham of a trial wouldn't be happening if they had him already. But in a way that is very different from an arrogant boast being chirped out by a fifth grader over their shoulder to provoke a fight, Jesus instead opens his mouth to speak, but it's not prideful, it's not Tony Stark-like, it's humble, it's truth, and it brings us right back to what the heart of the issue is. Caiaphas the high priest says to him, I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God. Then Jesus gives that response that he gave to Judas earlier in 26, that he's going to give to Pilate here in another chapter. I think that's got to be in 27. It's in 27. And that he's given to Caiaphas here. And that response is, you said so. Yes, it is as you say, is the way my translation renders it. So Jesus says that, but then he goes on. But I say to all of you, in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. Now, I think he knew that just saying yes to Caiaphas's question was probably enough. But Jesus isn't there to just provoke them to be jerks. He's there to say the things that are true and to force them to go on record with exactly why they are killing him, what they are calling blasphemy. And what he's referencing here is something that you and I have looked at a lot. It's Jesus' favorite title for himself, right? That Son of Man thing. He often gets called the Son of David by other people who partially understand the significance of his role and who he is, but don't totally get it, like the children in the marketplace, like the blind guys who are tracking him down a couple different times, like the Canaanite woman up north who had the conversation about the scraps from the table and all of that in, I think it's chapter 15. And we do see the title Son of God used some as well. It comes up, I think Peter straight up says that in chapter 16, right? Let me double check because I don't want to tell you Bible things that are lies and fake. Okay, he said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's the phrase. So Son of God. Son of God is also used by the demons who are real mad at Jesus. I almost got it. Matthew 8:29. What do you want with the Son of God? They shouted. So we see that title from outsiders. Interestingly, it's appearing in both of those cases. Ironically, I mean, it's an accidental statement of truth from people who are the enemies of the truth. Like they're nailing it. They know exactly who he is. It's the squishy middle who can't seem to figure it out yet. So you got that Son of David thing for the people who are like, I think I sort of get what you are. You got the Son of God thing, which in the two examples we've looked at are coming from enemies of Jesus. But Son of Man, that's the title that Jesus seems to like to use for himself. Now you will recall that is a reference back to Daniel 7. Shoot, I missed it. I want to look competent and like I'm good at just zipping around the Bible because I totally want you all to be impressed with me. But super secretly, sometimes it takes me a minute to find Daniel. I had to go buy it twice. All right, where's it at? Daniel 7. Oh, yeah, this is a lot to go through all of it. Go back and read Daniel 7 or go back and scrounge up the episodes where we broke all this down and talked about it. I think we would have covered this when we were in Matthew 9, right? I mean, that's where Jesus heals the paralytic right at the beginning of the chapter, and he says, so that you'll know that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins. Yeah, I think it must be right there around Matthew 9 that we broke down all of this Daniel 7 stuff. But there's this gigantic arc that's being cast forward in history that says the Son of Man is, it's a messianic title. It's an allusion to all of that. So by Jesus going right back to that title in chapter 26 in his answer, so he's, yes, it is as you say. So he's saying, I am the Christ, the Messiah. I am the Son of God. He is also therefore saying, then instead of being quiet and hoping that they might just not have enough there to get him still, he keeps going to make absolutely sure that the truth is on the table. And he adds to it that he is, in fact, the Son of Man described in Daniel and alluded to in other parts of the Old Testament as well. And then he goes even further, referencing the super well-known messianic psalm, Psalm 110, the same one that he approached the Pharisees with at the end of chapter 22. Psalm 110:1 says, the Lord says to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. The Lord will extend your mighty scepter from Zion. You will rule in the midst of your enemies, your troops. And it goes on to describe the power of God and the authority with this mediator that is in conversation with God and with David here. It's a complex passage and it takes a little bit to unpack it, and we've already done that in the past. So by referencing these two things, Jesus is talking about his authority over Zion, over Jerusalem, where these guys think they hold authority, but they don't actually. He's referencing his authority over Rome, who's going to execute him here in a chapter or so. He's demonstrating his authority as the fulfillment of all of the stuff in the Old Testament from the beloved, overt, even major prophets. He is demonstrating that he has the authority, the signet ring of the Father. He is the Son, the suffering servant, the one who was supposed to come, the one who is the main point of all the parables that he just told them. To put it simply, there is no ambiguity in Jesus' answer. Maybe If you're just picking up a Bible for the first time recently and you haven't had a chance to really spend much time with it yet, but you're just still working on it, it might not be obvious. But after a while, poking around with it like you and I have been trying to do here, it just becomes really evident what's happening. What's happening is in every way he can loudly proclaim, I am exactly who you think I am. He is saying that. So there would be no question, and so that they would respond the way they're going to respond, and what they would do quickly. Again, I say, this is the dramatic high point of the whole book this far, and maybe it's the dramatic high point of the whole book, period. Because there is no lingering question about who Jesus is, who the text holds him out as being, and therefore there is now only tragedy as the Messiah that God's chosen people have been waiting for. The leadership, not everybody, but the leadership of those chosen people are about to nail their God's son to a cross and have him killed with the help of the world kingdom that Jesus' kingdom stands in opposition and relief against. High drama indeed. Two things. One, thanks to everybody who's supporting the program. I saw a few new people signed up here back at the beginning of August. That's always such a huge encouragement. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate your help for whatever period of time that makes sense. We get to do this. We can have nice things because you do that. So thank you very, very, very much. Also, thanks to everybody who went and checked out Jeff's new album, the one that I only mildly contributed to, but that I'm still personally very proud of. It's called The Clamor and the Crash. The band name is Rooktown. It's fully available now on Spotify. And man, if you haven't listened yet, I think it's so good and I think you're going to love it. Thank you for giving that a listen. Thank you for passing it along to others. I'm not getting anything for that. I just want to help out my buddy, and I just want to put things in front of you that I think are great and will make your life better. And I think this album is great. So thanks again for giving that a listen. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.